true power is not existing within any dual compartments. Not considering yourself strong nor weak, conscious or unconscious gives a humility which is free from the burden of them both. They both possess conflict that gives identity and purpose of their lacking confidence and ability. The acceptance of the simplicity of existing is the ultimate state of being void of the conflict of dual opposites within, causing the turmoil of asserted identity, desired or undesirable effect. If you feel that you have to be plugged into some religion for you to understand of how to treat yourself and therefore other people, then your problem roots more deeper than you realize. Whatever your choice of belief holds no meaning if you do not know of how to treat others because of failing of knowing how to treat yourself. Doctrine was created for you to observe outside of yourself and to rely upon an inaccessible outside agency for your clarity and thus, liberation. Observe yourself. Read and understand yourself of who and what you are, as only then will you understand your purpose and what it means in existence. Searching outside of the soul is the root of self-destruction. The most interesting book you will ever read is Yourself. Do it. We live in times of where many are seeking various forms of indoctrinations for the sake of feeling enlightened. Many assert to be conscious, spiritual, etc. All of these titles only imply existing inside of a constitution of information in which has a measurement of something which has a beginning and an end. It is revealed to be stagnant in fact because of such. It is easy to determine what you are dealing with when observing these manner of human beings, as you are simply an observer, when most in this mental condition perceive you as one who is challenging them. Since most this day think this to be the case, I found it very easy as well as practical to know if you are in fact dealing with someone who is in fact spiritual or conscious. Both of these claimed states of minds should carry a profound sense of discernment in which is able to determine one very common and uncomplicated reality. If you want to know if you are in fact dealing with a spiritual or conscious human being who are asserted to be blessed with the gift of discernment, simply fabricate something and then wait until they respond. Because they will. You offered for them to execute their vanity and feelings of being neglected of their past, as they now have a strong need to be useful. I find many in this day and time who possess a need to stand outside of themselves of where they feel uncomfortable as well as discouraged of their own effectiveness, and have difficulty in being within the present sphere of what they possess in terms of knowledge, intelligence and thus, information to the capacity they have a need to claim to have such an insight into matters of your living experience. They totally are misdiscerning of if you are fabricating what you tell them, and thus they claim to have an insight spiritually into the fabrication as it is being administered. In most cases they truly mean no harm. They simply want to help others to understand their lot more effectively, as they have a great need to be right to feel more securely. They come from being broken and humiliated in most experiences of their journey and have healed in most areas, but not in the area of having a sense of spiritual and intellectual vanity, with a desire to help others. Sounds complicated? It's only because it is if commonly feeling and therefore thinking that it should be simple, and if you fail to have an insight into what is transpiring in our society this day. There are a lot of hurt and broken people in the world this day who still desire compassion of themselves but to guide others who are perceived to be lost in complexity. We all are in our own manner walking the path towards what we hope is enlightenment, which in fact is no path at all. I saw in meditation recently that enlightenment has nothing whatsoever to do with any measure of information, but of a human being who has the humility to be silent when they know they should. Otherwise, their vanity only invokes them to make guesses in the name of being spiritual or conscious. This is the divine discernment which most who are walking in humility possess. In spite of possessing this vast amount of information, one is awaiting the opportunity to share or even blabber. The most profound state of wisdom and insight will forever be being able to honestly say to yourself, I don't know, and remain silent. Fabrication is a sacred dilemma which could manifest at any given moment in a discussion because of someone determined to see if you in truth are this divine human being that is propagated. You could expose yourself in trying to assert being something you are not, while the other person who is doing the fabrication seems immensely humble as they look at you and think to themselves, fabrication has a tendency to reveal the fraudulent ones. It is unfortunate, but a necessity in these times to see what one is faced with. To be rejoined back with all of which holds unlimited power and humility, silence, contentment, no duality, no name or earthly memories. All I can explain it is in one word, and that is clarity. The knowing of all beyond the limitation of the measure of mere knowledge, as information was no longer a factor and therefore a weighty burden full of conflict. I was free. It takes a while to accept living again after experiencing being absent of the flesh. People are not going to understand you most of the times because your mind has been expanded beyond your formal self to the capacity. You have to get to know yourself again, and also there is a familiar feeling, a presence as well that feels omnipresent. And this is a state of being that is utilized upon a daily basis without effort of expression. You find yourself being forced into a state of isolation because of not being understood. In time, you come to accept that your only real companion is that what you have learned of the experience, and it is that in which is your true lifelong spouse. The time of withdrawing from the common attachments of others fails to be difficult because of being evolved into a mind which holds a clarity surpassing the common reactions, triggering emotions of discord and dismay. You are upon the earth, but no longer as earthbound as before according to what mentality rules the society in all of its platitudes and trends of thinking and responding, reacting and being completely a manifestation of a fictitious state of living that most laugh and embrace because it permits them to lose themselves and become what is currently and obviously taking the world into a darkness which none will understand its self-destructive formula until it is too late to know that this self-destructive environment was simply brought about by human beings who were taught through various agents of social engineering to reject themselves as they are for the sake of embracing that which only is beneficial to this system. Where much has been gained, plenty will be lost. But it's never too late to turn this thing around. It's up to us. It is clear for most that understand the vitality of objective thinking that if you are under a law or commandments based upon moral correction and a maintainer of this moral correction system, and the consequences of opposing those laws despite the trails in your actions, is the death of hellfire, a mythical designed dwelling place for you to burn in anguish for the rest of your eternal life, then your submission to fulfilling this law or commandment is truly rooted in fear, and thus, fear is the God that you serve, because fear is the driving force of your submission, not love. It was the disorder in mankind in which created the necessity for the law and the commandments, and therefore, mankind and his disorder gave birth to the commandments that he is under, as this implies him and her already foreknowing what was morally correct. To have to be commanded to perform an act of civility reveals a man or woman whose submission is rooted in a present resistance internally. To have to be commanded implies those who are being commanded still possess some moral resistance in opposition of what the commandment implies, and therefore the resistance keeps the laws and commandments valid. Having to be under a law consistently is no proof of an honest living based upon a fluent moral state consistently, but in fact reveals of one possessing inside a predisposition to commit the acts that those laws and commandment assert to reject and therefore condemn. Considering that we all were created an extension of a dual creator which created both good and evil, both war and peace, male and female, etc. With this practical information and the insight to understand the essentials of this and of how these entities operate, we will in time understand the importance of again utilizing our own authentic instinct which has been contaminated and enslaved by religious doctrine, and ending the fear of again walking free under the sun and being our true selves. The true fulfillment of the law or commandments is no longer having the need to submit to them. You become again a manifestation of unequivocal morality despite being contained within this organism or any organized religion. After it has been fulfilled, then it no longer is a necessity to submit. You are free to be yourself and walking in the light of truth. If you are able to perceive the inner two yin and yang, the duality of the self, then know that you are the third party observing them and seeing that they are in conflict, clashing against one another because of containing opposing perceptions, creating conflict between the two, thus a sense of duality in the human being. They can never coexist in harmony. However, the third party is not able to produce a resolve even though it sees the conflict. So, being able to perceive the third, seeing the dysfunction of the two without a resolution, you are in fact in the fourth insight of where there is clarity. Don't think about it. Allow it to reveal itself. It's clarity. There is a fourth inner eye. Meditation is revealing and healing within one movement. Protect your inner peace. Never sacrifice it back to those who caused you turmoil. Compromising your divine clarity is the death of your contentment and the birth of further turmoil and duality. Be responsible for everything you have, which provides your confidence and strength. No one else will or were created to do that for you. Morality exists within the realm of duality, and therefore, it is left to be asserted as a point of view according to one's life experience in terms of personal perception and its effects upon the mind and spirit. Having this entity contained within with an opposing nature, it can't be an absolute righteous state of morality if it is given a purpose by way of the opposite, which is immorality. Having an opposing partner based upon immoral standards, the assertion of righteous morality leaves to be only a point of view. Then the question arises, if morality and immorality have the ability to coexist in harmony while still in their state of opposing implications, creating duality, then we are left with the yin and yang symbol of conflicting forces, which implies aggression and assertion clashing against one another, which is mistakenly understood as the balance. Balance is supposed to imply contentment by way of a universal perception. Contentment is free of any conflicting forces within the host. No duality. No opposing state of perceptions asserted as beneficial content for harmony. Being able to go within and having the insight to see the duality implies being of the third party in observing conflicting forces and understanding that there is a war of humanity trying to assert itself as being the ultimate perception of good for the sake of the state of goodness. However, if this can be observed as a third party involved in this observation, then we have more than a third state of insight, but a fourth, written by David Anthony Brayboy.